And the landscape has changed dramatically from how we used to make films and how we're making them now. It's shifted, you know, and I think that's one because of the buyers, but more importantly, the audience has shifted. You know, theatrical movies, now a lot of people used to go to the movie theater, but now everybody's looking at it on video. Now that people aren't even buying videos, they're getting it all online. And so financiers and buyers and distributors were all looking away to how to be able to capture, you know, the audience market and how do we finance it respectively. And there's been a lot of vertical integration in the Hollywood system and in the independent financing. And what I mean by that is companies have bought out another company that's bought out another company, so you have less voices to hear your story, you have less decision makers to hear your story, you have less people putting money into it because people are just, you know, collapsing everything, because that's what corporate America is. In the scenarios back 10, 15 years ago, and to a certain extent now, films have been driven, the financing has been driven by major actors or by tentpole movies. And what I mean by tentpole movies are the big, you know, Lethal Weapon franchise, or Batman, or Rain Man, and things like that. So those are the ways that the studios make their decisions. So do you in the room know what pre-sales is? I don't want to spend too much time. Everybody here pretty much knows what pre-sales are? Anybody who doesn't know what pre-sales mean? Okay, so pre-sales is a term used when a financier will go out to buyers from different territories and pre-sell the movie before it's made. And it'll be based on the cast, the story, the genre, the director, and they will give you a certain amount of guaranteed money in a contract, and then you take that contract to the bank. So initially, pre-sales, you know, it's divided in territories. You know, if you go to France and they give you $600,000 up front, you know, then the bank knows that you'll be receiving that when you finish the film. So it's a contract in pre-production, and then at the end you deliver the film, and they give you the money back, and you use that money to pay the bank back. So in that time, North America accounted for almost close to 50% of the total budget. You could expect them to pay you back. Germany was about 10%. You know, the UK was about 10 to 12%. France 10%, and Japan. So you would sell a few key territories, and then you had your foundation, and you knew that a certain part of that budget was going to be completed by the pre-sales, and then you would probably have a little bit of equity and the gap financing, which means that the bank would finance it based on the gap of the rest of the territories that were still available. Everybody with me? I know it's really dry, and after lunch, I'm sorry, I had to be that. It's going to get more fun. But I just wanted to give you the context so we understand how you do it. So the combination is pre-sales, equity, gap financing. That was traditional. Pre-sales amounted to about 70%. Gap financing was about 20%. Maybe you had 10% that was filled in with equity. So we have to remember it's an art, but it's also a business. So it's always that combination of how do we split the hairs. To speak more with Mark is Current Teen Thunder, and this is Mark's film that actually is the awardee here for SEMA. And you know, there's some of the elements that it has going for it in terms of a universal audience is that it's based on a seminal Caribbean novel by Edgar Mittelholzer. You know, so it has that going for it. It has some type of international appeal. It's a classic universal story. So even though it's based in Caribbean theme and Caribbean personalities and stories, it has a very universal theme and something that people can relate to. You know those films like Merchant Ivory? The Merchant Ivory films, you know, I'm not thinking of any of their titles right now, but they're very Room with a View. They're very typical to a region, but they have a story that kind of that speaks to everybody, and that's really what it is. And then we have Mark, who in his own right is somewhat of a I don't want to use the word commodity, but he has a name. He's recognized because of his work both in Canada and the U.S. And so Mark is going to come down and actually share with you the current situation of what he's facing as a peer of ours, and show you, you know, what we're doing.